Alright, so first game has just started on Team Acropolis, and for those of you who actually don't know what the map looks like, it looks like this. It is all three players quite close by, spawning right next to each other in basically some kind of big home base, and they are not really walled up. This is just basically a terrain texture, not anything else. It is quite easily passable, but what it actually could be resulting into is making a lot of walls in here. You definitely see that it could be possible, although quite costly. But if you are able to somehow control your part of the map, basically this kind of island in the grass in here, it is definitely going to be making it easier for you to overall control the map and help you with the team play and gameplay overall. Looking at the other team, basically the same, but it's kind of interestingly spawned, to be honest, on the top team, and I have something switched off. Yeah, as I'm seeing it, yeah, because I was recording nothing. So there is the player score on the right side, and to finish with my thought, the top team is NCs, and they are interestingly having Snay on the left side, which is definitely not really all that ideal, because there is a lot of space between him and his allies that are basically right next to each other, all three of them, and that definitely will make for an interesting map for NCs, because if they cannot really wall this, it might be a bit of an advantage for the opponents who do have something slightly similar with Heimdall on the left side, but not really all that much, because you can see that Milo and the other teammates are a bit more spread out than what we have seen for NCs. Looking at the civilizations, we are having for VN Spanish, Mayans, Goth, Mongols, and for the opponents that's a bit different at least. We are seeing Spanish, Mongols, Mayans, and Persians, so Persians versus Goths. And oh well, this might actually look like that VNs actually do have a special plan, as the Goths I think are not a bad idea, because since you are so close by to your teammates, you actually don't need to worry about walling at all. So basically the malus that Goths have without the extra walling is basically nullified at all, because your teammates can do it for you. And that means that their spamming ability in the Imperial Age is going to be quite powerful. And I'm really liking this choice, especially above what Dark Knights or rather what NCs have, as the Persians are going to be taking quite some time to actually boom up. And even though, yet again, in the close bases in here, they might be able to boom a bit slightly easier, it's still not going to be all that nice as, for example, on Arena or any kind of other map that you use Persians on. For example, something like Migration or Nomad or anything like that. So we are seeing that blue is actually moving all the way to the top to a pretty nice patch of woodline in here, as the woods are kind of scarce around the map. You can see just a lot of small bushes in here, which is definitely going to be quite ineffective. But since you don't really have all that much of a choice as a teammate or other player on this map overall, see right now also Eru making sure that he doesn't need to mill in here, saving extra wood exactly because of the problems in here. It is definitely going to be useful to find some big patches exactly like the blue player did at the back, and well, the bigger ones are then going to be for NCs in the forefront. So yeah, definitely not safe and something that could be easily raidable opponents. There is also quite nice patch of wood for the opposing team for VNs at the very back. Otherwise, a lot of small ones, and yep, yet again, the walling is already coming up, as you were talking about it, as he's scouting in here as well. And well, otherwise, we don't really see all that much interesting stuff. Another patch of wood is kind of easily defensible, basically the same as for yellow player, who is already moving quite adventurously to the right side, which is definitely nice to see. And oh well, he's going far away from his home base. Very far away. This is quite interesting, and definitely some kind of prepared plan from NCs. Okay, so let's see how this will develop for them. Otherwise, there's in the middle a bit of a pond with some shorefish, as you can see, but definitely no deep fish, which means that basically docking this is not all that useful. You can just, I don't know, if you want to boost your economy in the early game, make use of those shorefish, but I don't really think it's going to be all that useful, especially since it's so far away. And yeah, I would definitely prefer going full on land build for all of these players, which seems to be exactly the case so far. Interestingly, Conqueror as a Mayans is basically the furthest in the villages. He was just 16 just a moment earlier, whereas we and Dark Knight and Milo are quite ahead at 19. And just now Pedro joining them at there, which definitely signals that we are doing a pretty good job with the economy and seem to be having an upper hand as opposed to their opponents. So let's see if that will be something that will also move into the later game with them. Interesting wall, and to be honest, I would be expecting that wall about here would be shorter. But he opts for this kind of wall, and yeah, not really optimal at all. And he's going for an interesting wall in here as well, as he wanted to give some extra room to his villagers in here, as he's expecting he's going to be having a lot of villies in here on the wood line. He's building a wall a bit more to the south, which will buy him a lot of land together with the relic in here. And yeah, that is going to be quite nice for him in the later game, and he's definitely aiming to make this part of the map his. So far we don't really see any kind of walling from NCs, like at all. Like literally at all, just the one on the right side from yellow, but otherwise absolutely nothing happening in here. As we are pausing, but who definitely likes his pulse is Heimdall on the left, and well, it's definitely costing him a lot of wood. So he has to make sure that it's worthwhile, but I think that they do have some kind of plan, and this could be something that will be helping him quite nicely in the early stages of the feudal ages. As we are already advancing, both Snake and Heimdall, and they are Mongols, yeah, both of them, so they are going to be aiming for basically the same strategy. We are so far seeing a pause, quite a lot of them actually at the start of the game. Yeah, interesting walling in here as well. And well, looking at the big gold mine being basically behind the wall, not exactly all that sure if this is going to be all that useful. He does have one gold on the left, but still it's not the big one. And he definitely will have to make sure that his gold is his before the kind of big fights happen, because if he happens to lose it, then it's going to be a pretty big problem for his team overall, even though they still have those extra gold piles because of all the players being quite close by to each other. Just gonna check outside of the game to see what is actually up. But since everybody is still in the game, just now run. Actually, maybe not. As players are just now, exactly as I was coming out as well. So there might be some kind of problem. Might be restoring or something. So I have to figure that out. And they are right now continuing, so let's see. There is still a delay, minute and 30 seconds, so still if they somehow dropped or anything. Yeah, right now we are getting the message that game was not rated, and that will definitely mean that we will be, as soon as the spectator delay finishes, to be restoring the match. Yeah, bit of a lag in there apparently. And well, he's too close, so that's kinda sucky. So let's check around as the ends are finishing with the wall on the right side as well. And well, still nothing like that seen from NCs, as there is still a lot of luring of the deer happening from NC Arrow. Blue is right now moving quite forward into a bit of a offensive his opponents right there, and since we are just about now finishing, let's check the achievements, and we will be switching into the game room and waiting for the restore of this first game. Yeah, not much really to see here. There we go, we are back into the match. Let's throw the Fog of War right about now, and we are exactly where we ended. And so that we are not destroyed by some spoilers, let's turn the chat from the spectators off. Well, definitely nice win right now from Green, having a bit of an idle Billy in here, who is definitely going to be continuing with quite elaborate palisades in here. As on the left, this is definitely nicely played by Heimdall, who is all the way around, it seems like. Going to be just a few extra walls about here, and he will be just around. It seems like that it's going to be his task, and we can already see that Purple Milo is already quite nicely prepared for potential raiding, as this stone is going to be very crucial to him. And since he is Spanish, it kinda makes sense, as he will want to drop castle as soon as he is the castle age himself. Well, otherwise quite interesting, or rather normal setup in here, seems like. Not really anything unusual from the Goth player, and pretty much the same from the Green, who is finishing with the wall on the right side as well, so he's definitely the one who will be covering the walls in here, together with Milo at the top as well. And even though there are scouts already prepared from the ends to defend against their opponents, they are probably not going to be having all that much work, as it looks like that NCs are not all that ready to raid them just yet. They are also working on walling themselves in to protect from any kind of raiding. As you can see, Skittle right now on the gold, and well, pretty much the same from Pedro on the gold and stone, which is quite close by, and this is definitely going to be advantageous for him, because if he drops another town center about here once he advances into the next age, since he is Mayan, so he might even be dropping a castle in here, gathering all that much stone. That could definitely be a possibility. Well, you'll be seeing. That will be what he chooses to do. Otherwise, on the right side, this is going to be the domain of Skittle, who is right now joined by Eru as well. So that's going to be those two guys getting as much woodline from these trees here as possible, and he's definitely all the way closed. So yeah, he is thinking that he wants to stay here and doesn't want to be disturbed like at all. Bit of a raiding already attempted by Hamdol, who is Mongol, so definitely does have the scouts in here, and a bit of a fight right under the stone between all the scouts in here from Snake, who is yet another Mongol in this game, but from the other team, new chapter. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a micro battle between the two Mongols, it seems like, but it should be really easily coming to VN's power, because it's basically a fight right next to their home base, and looking at the numbers, this is basically just 4 plus 1 against 2, so yeah, that's not going to be much that actually Snake could be doing against that, especially since he's not sending any kind of reinforcements like at all. We see jumps into the castle age from Pedro, Dark Knight and Milo, so that's double castle from the ends, and coinage from Eru, so he's going to be the one who will be slinging in NC's team. Movement on through woodline on the left as well. Fortunately scouted by Snake, so yep, that's nicely played by NC. And well, this is definitely going to be an opportunity for them to raid, and you can see that Red is already moving in, and together with this guy, they might be making something happen against those release. They do have Loom, so it's not going to be all that easy, as potentially it could have been otherwise, but still, nothing else much happening on the map, as there's a bit of patrolling going on from Heimdall, and nothing much else, just a bit of scouting extra from Milo at the top, who is just advancing to Castle Age, and looking at Heimdall also getting coinage. It will be a sling from both of these players that we have seen earlier, and that was, I think, Eru, and right now it's going to be also the teal player Heimdall from the ends. Well, already waiting quite nicely with the pikeman. The spearmen, in case the guys are moving in there, which they exactly are. So that's a very nice anticipation and nice preparation, so that he isn't caught off guard, as this big gold mine is quite important, exactly as we were talking about the big gold mine at the bottom for a green player. And well, if he can somehow secure this, he should be able to do as a Mayan. Just dropping a castle about here should be pretty much fine for him. He should be in a pretty good position, or rather he should be in a pretty good position to use it for the rest of the game. Well, naturally happening in here as Cartography is coming up as well, so let's have a look at achievements and the sling as it is starting. Who is slinging into who? And Arrow is slinging into Skittle fully, whereas Heimdall and Conquerors are slinging into Dark Knight, so it seems like double sling actually from the ends, and that's definitely interesting. The Dark Knight is the Goth, Skittle is what? Persian. So they are actually slinging into the odd civilizations that are different between them, and this will definitely be a clash of two various strategies, and we will be seeing which one is better. So far it's looking that Skittle is going to be switching into knights, which is understandable as a Persian, whereas the Goth is preparing for what? So far nothing, so he's probably waiting for the Imperial Age, and then he will be unleashing basically the standard spam I would be expecting with Castle. Yep, and we'll be seeing a lot of Huskarls, Halberdiers, and whatever he can actually throw at his opponents. So yeah, nicely prepared. And what is also nicely prepared is the walling. And already Conquistadors coming in from Milo. So definitely should be careful about this, and maybe even invest in a bit of gates, but I'm thinking he doesn't really have the stone right now. Yeah, he definitely needs extra stone for the town centers, and also potentially for some extra castles if he opts to do so. There was a bit of fighting, exactly as we predicted some minutes ago, but you can see that only one village died, but both scans died as well. And another TC is coming up from Milo, and I would be expecting that he might be going for a third TC somewhere close by, but so far that's not really true. He's still sticking with 2 and 1 castle, so that seems to be pretty much it. And Dark Knight in the meantime is coming for Imperial Age and Chainmail Armor, so yeah, that's going to be pretty much a standard spam from him, as Huskarls are already coming out, and there is also a pretty constant trickle of knights from NC Skittle, who is definitely aiming to the bottom side, and this is going to be one opening that he can potentially abuse, but not really all that much because of this nicely positioned TC, which Skittle just now saw. Yeah, they should be working on the wall in to improve it into stone walls or anything if they want to. And looking at the minimap, I don't see any different colored dots really all that much. Just the teal player or other grey player is now establishing himself in the middle, which should have been just scouted by Skittle, but I'm not sure if he actually noticed, because he just ran past it. And I think he's fully engaged at the bottom with the knight and tried to do something in here. I'm really thinking that he missed it altogether, which is a bit of a luck for the grey player, as he is going to be well established at this point, going for anarchy as well, before even his opponents notice, and that's going to be quite deadly for them, especially since VNs are already in their opponent's bases because of the lack in walling, which is something that VNs did not underestimate, but NCs most definitely did, at least on the left side, and Conquistadors are definitely making Snake pay quite strongly, and that's the problem, because the Mongol without proper boom is going to be quite a weaker player. At the same time though, we see that VN's walls weren't really perfect either, and the two knights made their way into the bases, especially for Milo, but since he is having at least some kind of defense and the Veliz are very close by to the town center, it's not much of a problem, and they are quite fine dealing with this small nuisance, even though knights are still coming in earnest. And yeah, this is something that they should be really careful about quite strongly. Ah, well, you can already see counter for the monks, so yeah, probably not a problem for much longer. As these Conquistadors are probably not going to be a problem for much longer either, as the blue plumed archers are already on their track, and they should be getting rid of him quite easily, the same as the wolf is helping here as well. Another TC right now for the blue player, and coinage for Snake, so he's going to be double slinging as well. Right now we are seeing 3 TCs for blue, if I see this correctly. 1 TC for 3 TCs for the Persian. 1 TC for Arrow, who is slinging as he is still in feudal age. Whereas on the left, the Mongol is having 1 TC, and it seems like that he's going to be fully switching into slinging. He's having 2 TC so far, but really not anything extra about that. So it's really looking like it's going to be a bit of a different strategy or switching strategy from NCs. So far looking at Heimdall, who is, as a Mongol, also slinging, having just 1 TC as he's still in feudal, of course. Vienna Milo is at 2 TCs, we have seen that previously. We'll stick into those, not really building anything extra. And the Golf is at 1 2 TC so far. You don't see any kind of extras. And 1 TC for the Mayan. Rather 2? No, just 1. Oh, yeah, this is definitely something to keep an eye on for VNs, as they don't want to be breached on the right side, so that the knights would be all the way inside their bases. At the same time, we already see a pretty big engagement in NC's base, and that's of course going to be quite unfavorable for NCs, because they are right now with knights facing basically full-on infantry. So yeah, definitely not going to be all that useful for them, especially since Skittle is still not Imperial Age, which means just normal knights, whereas Knight, who was double slung from VNs, is in Imperial Age and is getting all the upgrades up, and whose cars are already elites with +1 attack, +2 into armor, so still something to go, but already quite strong as compared to the opponents. Yep, let's see, he's quite nicely set up in the middle of the map, so he doesn't have all the big weight to opponents. He has already killed another squad of knights right in there, but he really should be incorporating something like at least a few halberdiers, because that would be helping quite nicely against all those knights, and he would be all that more efficient in the fighting scene here. Let's see if that's something he will be switching into. I also need to switch into him, of course. Now Jesus Carlos spam, and well, another coinage for Pedro, so it's almost looking like that actually NCs will be switching into full-in slinging, and the slinging should probably go into Skittle, I would be expecting, because he's probably the only one who is kinda prepared for it, but yeah, he's not really handling the situation at all, because so far NCs are pretty heavy defensive in here, and as you can see, the Goth was definitely a pretty correct choice, especially with the overall double sling strategy that the Ents chose against their opponents. So nicely played so far, and let's see if NCs are going to be able to somehow come back from this. Another TC coming up from Snake, so he is right now establishing himself, and he could potentially be a bit of a threat to his opponents. You can see some camels on the left, already trying to pick up some army, and he will be prepared if his allies can survive long enough to somehow punish the opponent. Yeah, of course, plumed archers are not going to be all that great against Huscarls, but since Pedro actually isn't prepared for anything else, he doesn't have much of a choice, and well, yeah, there's not much that he could be doing. Some two-headed swordsman would be potentially something that he could do, but still, he definitely needs some extra age, like Imperial Age, and well, a whole lot of upgrades, and potentially even some, I don't know exactly what, to get rid of all this Huscarl spam, because it's pretty problematic, of course, for a Mayan player. Yeah, once this gold mine is in a threat, that's going to be something akin to GG, I would have to say, for NCs, because it would be a huge problem. But looking at the amount, oh well, pretty big amount of Huscarls already, with upgrades still coming up. You already see the extra attack for him, and Blast Furnace is coming up as well. We are seeing how we and Dark Knight is definitely owning this map, and the ends are inching ever so slowly, but clearly into the victory in this first game. But well, on the right side, exactly as you're expecting, Skittle is preparing himself for basically rebuilding, the same as on the left. As on the left is NC Snake, but he is under a bit of attack by Milo and the Conquistadors, and that definitely lures a bit of plumed archers from the right defense into the left. Needs to protect his teammate. Well, Red is kinda deadish, as Eru is dropped to 23 villages, so yeah, that's not really ideal at all. And even though otherwise the numbers are not half bad, especially for Pedro, who is having 96 of them, probably at the very back. Yeah, quite a lot of them in here. He's still not really prepared to defend against what is coming for him, but I have to say that the longer the game goes, NCs are going to be having a better chance to defend against the attack that the Ents are actually pushing through right now, because obviously those Devil Slings from the Ents mean that they are kinda limited in the options of what to do, and if the Imperial Age is coming in, which it exactly is with Husbandry and Narrowcasting, and if they can get the Cavaliers and Paladins soon enough, they could be a pretty good counter to all those Huscarls. And I would most definitely like for the Goth to go into some upgrades into Spearman and to the Spearman line overall, because he will be needing it pretty soon. Pretty soon. And there's definitely opportunity to raid the gold on the left. And those Mace Willies should definitely be careful as well. And well, so far, it seems like pretty good armies already prepared. And there is going to be an attempted castle drop, but at a pretty bad moment, because the army is not numerous enough right now for Dark Knight, and he will definitely lose all those villages, and also all the stone that he was attempting to build a castle with, so that's not really ideal for him. And it's almost looking like, exactly as I was talking about it a bit earlier, that if NCs can hold on long enough and really bide their time and use the units wisely, they could be on their way to coming back into the game and maybe even punishing their opponents. So far, quite nicely done in here in the middle, preventing the aggressive castle drop. And this is just, sending units into their deaths, as probably Dark Knight is just keeping an eye on the left side of the battlefield, trying to catch some willies maybe, or I'm not exactly sure, but well, still the damage is being done into the castle, into the economy, and with the Conquistadors joining into the fun as well. Yep, this might not be as easy as maybe NCs hoped, but with Cavaliers coming in, it should be getting easier. But Milo is also coming into Imperial Age, so I'm fully certain that he will be switching into Paladins himself, and that could be exactly the proper counter to the Must Knights, aka Cavaliers and Paladins later, for the Persian player. Halberdier finally coming in for Dark Knight. To be honest, that should have been researched by like 5 minutes ago at least, so that he was already prepared. And oh yeah, this is going to be a pretty bad moment for him, even though he does already have some, actually quite a lot of them. So at exactly the right moment, he is going to be quite nicely supported by the Conquistadors, and I think this is going to be quite a deadly combo for all those yellow horses that should be retreating under some kind of castle fire, and they exactly are doing nothing like that. So it's going to be an important engagement and possibly an attempt to finish the castle. And yes, we are seeing the villages exactly. And here we see the GGs. Yep, they are calling it, NCs are calling it, as this map definitely was better prepared for VNs, or rather by VNs, and the Goth was a very nice strategy in here. And it definitely paid off quite strongly, as he was also moving to the left and not really enabling Snake to establish himself and potentially be a help to his teammates in there. Yeah, nice build up on the right side, but unfortunately their opponents were quite a lot faster than what they were hoping for to see in the game. Nicely played in here. Really nicely played from VNs. And nice choice of the strategy. So let's check the achievements. We are going to be seeing Dark Knight, of course, winning because he was slung, so yeah, that's not any kind of reason why he wouldn't be winning. But I have to say that NC's really defended quite nicely in pretty much a hopeless situation, I have to say, and they almost look like they could be turning it around. But with the halberdiers coming in and without any kind of significant counter, as the Plumtashes already died to all those Huscarls, it unfortunately couldn't have worked for NCs. A lot of slinging absolutely everywhere. Well, GG then.